Hello everyone, this is Mr. Mar, and this is my tutorial on the chord progression transposed assignment. The purpose of the assignment is to give you some practice transposing, which is taking a musical idea and then putting it in a different key, which is a different set of notes. For this assignment, you're going to pick one chord progression and then transpose it into 3 different keys. There's a few steps to this, so just make sure you just take it one step at a time. So let's get started. So if you go to the chord progression transposed spreadsheet, you've got all these chord progressions in Roman numeral analysis. So if you need to review Roman numerals, just look that up online somewhere, maybe write it out just to remind yourself. Seems like we pretty much get that though, from what I've seen. So I found 4 different YouTubers who talked about different chord progressions for different genres. There's some ones that work well for songwriters, more cinematic, let's see, what else is there? Magical fantasy, cinematic, so a little bit, more out there sounding, and then some chill lo-fi, if that's what you want to do. There's, endless examples of these. So what you should do first is just listen through these chord progressions. Just open up these videos and listen for a chord progression that you like. They're going to be broken up into 2 different categories. Diatonic, so if it's in that kind of reddish, salmonish, what is that color? So I can be accurate. That dark magenta. So in the dark magenta color, that's diatonic. That means it stays in one key. All of the harmony is created from the 7 notes that are in that scale. There's this other concept of chromatic harmony. So chromatic harmony would borrow chords from other keys. So things can get complicated pretty quick. If you want a challenge, definitely go for one of the chromatic chord progressions. If this is a little bit new to you, you might want to stay with something diatonic. So for this example, I'm going to pick this one. This one seems kind of interesting. So this is a major 1, minor 5, major 1, and then a flat 3rd. So first thing I'm going to do is take these chords and put them in the second spreadsheet here, the chord progression in 3 keys, and set my chords. So my first chord, I can pull down from the chromatic harmony drop down, was the 1 chord, a major 1 chord. You want to make sure you're following if it's uppercase or lowercase. Uppercase is major, lowercase is minor or diminished. After that, it went to a minor 5. So that is not usually in the key. Then it went back to 1. And then it went to a flat 3rd, a major flat 3rd. So usually in a major key, the 3rd chord is minor. But it looks like what they did for this chord progression was took the 3rd note down a half step and made it a major chord. With chromatic harmony, you can just do things like that. So now I'm going to see if I can figure out what that chord progression would be like in 3 different keys. One thing that might help is if you have your test writing analysis up, because now you have 6 different major and minor keys to reference and use as notes to just remember what are the different notes, what are the different scale degrees, things like that. This can be a very helpful reference. My 1 is major. It's in a major key. Again, things are going to get a little bit different. Just to make this make sense, I'm going to choose C. Maybe I'll do G and A. So we'll do this in C major and G major and A major. And that's up to you. Again, I would suggest picking keys that you've analyzed so you can get that information easier. Now we're going to apply this Roman numeral analysis. So the number is going to tell you which scale degree the chord is based on. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be one of those. And again, if it's uppercase, it's major. Lowercase, it's minor. So in this case, I want a major 1 is going to start all of these. So that means that's the root chord. So it would just be C major, in this case G major, and then A major. And since I'm using that same chord twice, I'm going to do the same thing. Just writing C major, G major, A major. Those are my 3 chords. So next I'm going to want to find what is the 5 of each of these chords. So the 5th note of C is G. Since it's lowercase, it's going to be minor. So I'm going to write this as G minor. For G major, the 5th is D, and since this is minor in this case, I'm going to write D minor. Then for A major, the 5th is E, and since this is minor, because we're using chords outside of the scale, I'm writing E minor. Now we have this flat 3. So if you see a flat sign in front of the Roman numeral, it means you take that note down a half step, if that makes sense. So for C, the 3rd is E. This is telling me I'm going to take that down a half step and make it flat. So in this case, I'm going to call this E flat, since it's uppercase, it's major. So this is E flat major. For D, that's going to be F sharp major. Or, no, I'm not doing D. For G, that's going to be B flat major. Then for A, that's going to be C. Let me think about that for a second. C major. So if you have, something that's sharp, a sharp note like C sharp, to make that flat, it's now a natural, because before it was up, now it's down. If it's a natural, it's going to be a flat. If it's already a flat, ask me, I'll explain how that works. You're just going to take it down another half step, but it might get a little complicated. So I don't want to get too deep into this. So I've got my chord progressions are all transposed now. So this is going to sound the same as just using different sets of notes. So it'll sound maybe higher, lower, richer, brighter. The different keys are going to bring out those different options. So I can get rid of this now and just go to the Soundtrap project. So I've got three tracks. I would suggest solo the tracks. So you're just hearing one at a time. Then you're going to actually need the chords. Looks like for this, I've got a few major, a few minor chords that I'm going to need. So for major, looks like I'm going to need C major, G major, A major, B flat major, and E flat major. I'm using C major twice, which is kind of cool. Start to see how some of these chords can be used in different ways. So I got C major, A major, G major, B flat major, and E flat major. Great. So I'm going to download all of those, and it's going to download it into a zip file, which gets a little bit annoying on Chromebook. You have to open up the zip file generally, copy the files, and then paste them outside. That's one way to do it. So I'm going to find which minor chords I need also. So there's really just one set of minor chords here. Could be using G minor, D minor, and E minor. I'm going to go to the minor chord folder. G minor, D minor, E minor. Same thing, download the chords. I'm going to go back now, close this, go back to the Soundtrap project and start building this chord progression based on my spreadsheet. So for the first example, it's in C major. It's going to start with C major. So let me just pull open the folder that has my C major chord, put that here first. Maybe I'll just set all my first chords. So I've got C major, G major, and A major. Part of what's helpful is once I add these, it's changing the track label too, so that's helping me stay organized for this. So then I'm gonna need my minor chords next. So for my C major example, the 5 was G major. Then it went back to C major, so I can just copy and paste that. It's pretty straightforward there. Next one, the minor 5 was D. And then the next minor 5 is E. And then I can just copy and paste my 1 chords. Great. Yep. It's interesting, adding the notes in is shifting the track label. That gets a little confusing. So once this is done, I'm probably just going to rename those just for my own benefit. So the last thing is that major flat 3. So for the first example, it was E flat major. The next example is B flat major, and then the final example uses C major again, just in a different way. There we go. So now I've got the chords for all of my chord progressions. So now we're going to need to make some adjustments. So if we look over here at the instructions, we've gotten through the planning part of it. We've planned all of our chord progressions, gotten pretty close into the writing part, downloaded the chords, opened the sound trap project, added the chords. So then what we're going to want to do is make some adjustments. So one adjustment you're going to want to do is your sound patch. The other one, change either the tempo. If you want to change the rhythm of it, you can. But I would suggest mostly just changing the tempo at this point. To change your sound patch, right now these are all set to sine waves. So let me just check out what this first one sounds like. Cool. So that's kind of nice on its own, but I think it might be a little more cinematic with some strings. So I'm going to do a orchestral string ensemble, I think, for this. All right, and let's see how that sounds. Yeah, for my purposes right now, that's definitely going to work. And this kind of feels a little fast right now, so I'm going to slow this down to maybe 80 instead. All right, so then just do that same thing for your other chord progressions. Just take a listen, maybe set them to different sound patches, just experiment. Maybe for this example, I'm going to do a synth pad. So synth pad's really good for chord progressions. That's kind of cool. Let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, that sounded good. I like that. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to rename these tracks so I can actually remember what their keys are. So this one was my G major example, and then the last one was my A major example. So I'm going to do the same thing just with that third example here. This one, I might tweak the chord progression. I'm going to do this quickly, though. So I might add a little bit of an LFO to give it some movement. Probably actually increase the attack. Just do a little kind of fade in. Maybe put just a little bit of release on the end there. And then I'm going to set this LFO to, yeah, I'm going to put a little bit on the oscillator, just a fast. So like right in the middle is 0. That's helpful. So I want just a little bit here. So now it's got just kind of a wavy sci-fi type sound. Maybe I'll even add another oscillator. So then I can add some filtering. And kind of bring up my higher part a little bit. And there we go. So I have kind of a nice cinematic synthesizer type sound for that. And that would be it. So again, you want to make sure you're first planning your chord progressions, transposing them correctly in the spreadsheet. You're just using the MIDI chords to drag and drop the chord progression. Make a couple adjustments to your sound choice and your tempo, and then you're all set. So hope this helps. See you next time. Thanks.